Hey everybody, it's Sally here from Switch on Health, and I'm about to do another of the acute remedies, which is calendula. This should be pretty much in everybody's first aid kit because, as you will find out, it's one of the best ones to have. So let's proceed. So here is this beautiful little flower, predominantly those sort of yellowy shades. So that can give you an indication as to the sorts of things that you're going to be able to use it for. And we'll talk about that. And it is a lovely little flower. It actually closes when a cloud comes over. And we'll talk about that also. So you can see here, it's our wound healer. It is our antiseptic. So it's got an affinity to any sort of skinned wounds. It can also be used for muscles, for the spine, and for the liver. And when you think liver, think yellow, yellow stools, yellow skin. It is from the same family as arnica. Now, the difference here, though, is because it's a vulnerary, which means that it is a wound healer, it is one of the ones that you can put on open skin. You cannot put arnica on open skin, okay? It is also Bellis perennis, which is an abdominal remedy, and we'll talk about Bellis at a later stage, also arnica at a later stage. In 1849, it was used for gunshot wounds. So there you go. Given internally, applied topically. You can use it as a cream or a tincture where you're washing a wound. It's really good if you actually use a warmed tincture or a warmed wash, because that helps to flush, okay, rather than cold. Constitutionally, it's for those people that have a tendency to have erysipelas. Now, erysipelas is those that tend to get skin infections, okay? So just remember that. Those that sort of say, I always get a skin infection, okay? Moving on. This was the only strange, rare and peculiar that I could find, that these people who smoke, they always get hiccups. So they'll say that, when I smoke, I always get hiccups. Not that we want them to be smoking, but it is what it is. Some of the mental and emotionals here, their pain is excessive and it's out of proportion. So these are the people that say, oh, my paper cut is just the worst ever, worst ever. And so they're going to be quite irritable. They tend to be pretty nervous people. And these are the people that startle quite easily. They're easily frightened. They startle. They go whenever someone sort of frightens them. But there could be a magnesium thing too. So you've got to be aware of those sorts of things when you differentially diagnose. They also have this dread that something bad's going to happen, but that too is an aconite type thing too. So, they're some of your differential diagnostics. They hate being criticised. They hate being insulted. Well, nobody likes to be criticised and nobody likes to be insulted, but this is a real prominent one for calendula. And they're quite an exhausted, weak remedy. And it's from that inflammation, a bit different to say something like califos, where they're exhausted due to excessive mental work or excessive physical work. And they can be quite dreamy, quite sleepy, but that could be opium as well. So you can see here that your differential diagnostics are a really important way to look at remedies. Generals becomes cold, especially in damp weather and open air. So they are better for walking about, they are better for lying down. So they're either going to say, yes, walking is good for me, or they are going to say, have to lie perfectly still. And again, one of the worst for motion, differentially diagnosed with bryonia, and that's a muscle one too. They are worst when here's this heavy, cloudy, damp weather. Here's this little flower that closes when there's a cloud overhead. And here are these patients that are worse for cloudy weather. They're worse for drinking. When they drink, they have this creeping, crawling sensation. So that could be a good, strange, rare, and peculiar potentially. That creeping, crawling sensation when they drink. Worse for touch, worse for noise. Now, this is one of those remedies that could be either left-sided or right-sided. You can see here, tends to be left-sided chest and abdominal issues, and tends to be right-sided scapular issues. And again, when you think right-sided scapular, you could be thinking possibly liver or gall, and this is one that is a differential diagnostics for chelidonium, which is also one of the liver remedies. Bruising, tearing, stitching pains, stretching, dragging pains in the groin, especially on sudden movement. So again, varying types of pain here. Physical symptoms. So this is a great one for lacerated wounds. So not a clear sort of cut, those ones that are slightly jagged. Suppurative wounds, a calendula is really good for sepsis and gangrene, but you would need to sort of differentially diagnose with peridgium as well. Punctured wounds, again, differentially diagnosed with ledum. Open injuries, so these are those ones that could tendency to suppurate, but they tend to have a more clear sort of discharge than, say, something like episulf, which has that very yellow discharge, pus, that very yellowing pus. They may also have quite cold hands, not feet, but hands. They have this, so here's this yellowing stage. Here's the colour of the actual flower, yellowing skin where they get goosebumps, yellow stools. There's that liver stuff again. Yeah, and they can feel this quite bloated abdominal dissension. Okay, so they feel quite bloated, especially after meals for this one. So some of the indications, this is only going to be a fairly short, recording, because there is only limited stuff that you can use calendula for, hence it being quite acute. So ulcers, abrasions, abscesses, burns. With burns, you also need to differentially diagnose with cantharis, hypericum, and urticurans. Post-op. Now, this is a great one, post-op. I'll talk to you in a minute about a complex that I often use, but post-op, especially for post-operative eye, like cataracts, or eye injuries, and you can see there that that's been put in bold. But post-operative, you can use calendula. Post-dental, when they've had extractions. After childbirth, especially, as you can see there where it says vaginal tears. It is an intercurrent remedy to think of when someone is off seeing an oncologist. And I'm sure you'll get what that means. We are merely supportive. When our patients go to an oncologist, we support them quite well. Eye injuries, scratches, foreign objects, you can use a wash. So you would put your pilules in a wash, in some water, and you would get them to do an eye wash. And they can take it externally, obviously, as well. Muscle tears, inflamed nail beds. So, even potentially an ingrown nail you might be able to help with. Nappy rash is a great one here, both topically and orally. You can look at some of the school sores, so impetigo, some of the contact dermatitis, but again, you would need to sort of look at some of the allergy remedies as well, like histamina or again, urticurans, apis, again, it depends on what it looks like. Okay, so observation is important here as well. It is a tetanus remedy, but ledum is also a tetanus remedy, and hypericum is meant to be the preventative for tetanus as well. So you need to DDX again. This is one of the more prominent ones for a ruptured eardrum, and it's also a good one for cervical warts. So here's a case history. This was my border collie, 2 years old, jumped out of a moving motorhome, broke his leg, had an operation, had a titanium plate put in, ended up having weight bearing on that leg at the 6-week mark when the doctor said, yes, weight bear, but the titanium plate snapped because he chased a rabbit in the yard. So we then decided to look at leg amputation. So he had his leg amputated. And because this had been his second operation in a short period of time, within 6 weeks, the vet was certain that he would get an infection. And so he prescribed prophylactically, antibiotics, which we didn't give him. I gave him instead this combination: calendula to heal the wound, hypericum to help with nerve and pain, and arnica as that first stage trauma. And it was unbelievable. What happened was what came to the surface looked like he was bleeding, but it was this bright red bruising, and it was just fantastic to watch. And we took him back to the vet in that 2-week period after, and the vet said, oh my God, I can't believe how well this is healing. He got no infection, and he then went on to be this lovely border collie that lasted on this planet for 14 odd years. And it's amazing how adaptable animals can be. So great little case study for you all to start using on some of your beasties and some of your plants. And here are some of the remedy comparisons. Ledum, and again, we talked about that, punches, but ledum tends to be often a red-purple discoloration. Hypericum, again, you can see it there in that post-operative. So that combo can be used post-operative, post-dental, post-labour. Okay. Arnica, first aid, trauma, soft tissue, but arnica is antidoted by calendula, but it's odd because they also work well together. So hence the reason why it is in a combination. It's odd the way they work. Staph aureus is another one of the laceration remedies. It is often from knife remedies, but Staph aureus are going to be very angry. They're as calendula is quite irritated, staph is quite angry. Hepsulf, thick, ropey. See there, it's different. The discharge for calendula tends to be clear, but again, ferrum phos is also a clear discharge. But you can see there, Hepsulf, thick, ropey, but it is acrid, whereas calendula tends to be bland, so there's not that excoriation with calendula. And Hepsulf tends to have very splinter-like paint. Peridgian, again, septicemia, look at them, maybe start with calendula, and if it gets really bad, certainly Peridgian. Chelidonium is an antidote. Chelidonium is also one of your main liver remedies, right? And it's incompatible with camphora. Now, camphora, you need to be very careful when using camphora, especially in, say, a 200C, because camphora is our never well since or our ailments from, it's a clearing remedy. So it will clear, vaccinations. It will clear after a general anaesthetic. It will clear from, use of different medications, but it will also clear any medications that they may be on. So you need to be very careful if they're on a lot of conventional medications. Okay, don't use camphora. And here's a lovely little picture of a calendula or marigold plant and the uses for it. Obviously, anti-inflammatory, anti-diabetic, anti-hemolytic, which is wormy type things. Microbes, hepatoprotective, so it's going to protect the liver, antioxidant, wound healing, and there's one of those words that you would expect to see if you're going to visit an oncologist. Okay, so That's about it, really. Calendula, great to have in your first aid kit, especially if you have children with bumps, bruises, all sorts of things. You can make it into a spray, a cream, an ointment, a gargle. It's a great one for gargling. Um, yeah, any sort of topical aspect, and certainly internal. So learn more with Switch on Health. Thanks, guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next remedy. Okay, bye for now.